Hello, everybody. Welcome to Computing Concepts and Practice. So, today we're going to talk about how to perform initial firewall setup for Fortinet firewall. The model that I'm working on is Fortinet Fortigate 100D. So, right now I have it powered on and I want to connect it to the console. But before that, I want to wish all my Muslim brothers happy Eid. Today is the Today we broke our fast after 30 days of consistent fasting, and it's a day that we celebrate. So I'm very excited about that. But on top of that, I still have work to do. I got this video to make, so I'm very excited about it. So this video is going to assist anyone who just purchased a FortiGate firewall and they want to know exactly what to do. Like how do you set it up so they can connect to the internet? This is just basic. Then maybe in the future videos, I'm going to be taking you through maybe deeper configurations in setting up the firewall rules and all that. In my previous video, which was the part one, I introduced you guys onto how you're going to install the firmware because the firmware is very, very important, especially if you purchase this router, you must register them in order for them to perform on the cloud because those registration keys are very important because you also need the registration in order to be able to download the firmware from the cloud platform. Other than that, you might have to get the firmware from other sources or from other untrusted websites. So if you watch my previous video, you're going to see that I listed some sites that you can go to go get the firmware. So as you can see, it's listed over here. Sorry, ALC FortiGate free OS download at your own risk. This is the website you can go to download the firmware. Yeah, but so today the focus is not on installing the firmware. Today is how do you do initial configuration? How do you connect to the graphical user interface? Because the command line could be a pain if you don't know how to use commands. So once you finish installing your Fortinet FortiGate firmware, one of the most important things that you need to do is to review your system information. So we're going to go into those details, and then from there we're going to assign some basic configurations on our computer, such as assigning an IP address that will allow us to access the web interface, and from there I can get you through and you can get to see how we connect it to the internet. So the first thing that I'm going to do is open my party. I have my party over here. So to log in to the party, the default username is admin, all lowercase, and then there's no password. Just press enter, and then it will bring you all the way into the firewall. So the other thing that we're going to do is run the first command, which is get system status. So get system status. Remember, the question mark is very important. It allows you to see what commands that you can execute within a particular sub interface. So let's see. Enter. So this is going to run all the basic information about your firewall. After you've installed, you don't know anything about this firewall. If somebody was to ask you, oh, what's the serial number? At least there might be a sticker behind the router. What if there is no sticker? How do you find that information? So knowing where to find the serial number of your router is very important because during the registration process and the cloud, you might need the serial number. And this is how you use the command get system status, and that'll bring you most of the information. It'll bring you the FortiGate model that you have, the version that you've installed. This is one of the latest model, but version. It's not too up to date, but I believe it's like the current version is about 6.1 something or two, but you can check it out. The other thing is you can also see that most of these things are outdated. You see the virus database is outdated in 2018. So actually, this device came from one of our locations that was closed. So this is like a piece of equipment I can play with and get to teach people how to use it. So no big deal. So I don't need it. Any of these things to be updated anyway. So, but if you do want them updated, remember register it, and then you can get all these other products and the licenses that you need. So the other important thing is this. Okay, there's a host name, and then the part number in case you need to buy something, and then the operation mode is NAT, network address translation. So for those of you who doesn't know what NAT means, NAT simply means that it's kind of like an address structure that allows private addresses that we use in our local environment to be able to access or use or be translated into like a public IP addresses. So some addresses range from a Class A standpoint, Class B standpoint, Class C standpoint are not permitted on the public internet. So, in order for you to be able to access the internet, you need NAT to be able to transfer those private internal addresses to a public routable addresses. So that's what. So the default mode is NAT, and that's good. We also have what other information are important. Um, so everything else is that's about it. And then you can see, but just understand that get system studies to get you all the information you need about the system. Okay. So the only other important thing that we're going to look into is we're going to look at into show system information or interfaces. So show system interface. Remember, if you don't know, sometimes if you forget what command you want to type, you can just use a question mark. So show system, and you can see all these other information that you can be able to type with this particular command. So I don't want to go about that. So I'm just going to keep typing. Let's see. Okay, show system interface. So if you don't know which of these interfaces or the naming of the interfaces, just press a question mark. It will bring you all the interfaces that this particular model has. You can see that there is an interface called DMZ. DMZ is kind of like called a demilitarized zone, like a place that is between the trusted and the untrusted, the trusted internal and the untrusted public. So we also have HAL and HA2, the ports. We have the LAN port. So our focus for this particular lab is going to be more on the LAN and also on the WAN. So we have the management console. This was the port I used when I was trying to do the firmware installation. So that's the management port. And you can see the default, each of them has a default IP address structure. So this will allow the management point to issue an IP address to the local computer that you're going to use to do the TFTP file transfer. But also, on the other hand, if you look on the LAN, this will allow the computer that you're going to use to connect to that port to be able to have an IP address for you to be able to access the web interface. So basically, now that I have seen the information that are in here, so I know that all I need to do is go into my PC, and then just make sure that I have my PC have a DHCP address. Like instead of having a static IP address, it's fine to have a static IP. Just know that the addressing range. In this case, I want to access the LAN. I want to configure the LAN first before I configure the WAN. Okay, so you can see that on the LAN there is an IP addressing structure which is the 192.168.100.99. So that is the default gateway 100.99. So that means if you are setting an address like 98 locally or 97, any address below that all the way to whatever, you should be fine. So now let's do that. So I'm gonna go in the properties and then just make it default. And then say okay, okay. Usually I just disable it and re-enable it just so you can get something done fast. So I'm going to go to my CMD command line and check ipconfig, and you can see that As of now, it has not been given an IP address yet. Only the Wi-Fi is connected. So we don't have an IP address in here yet. So let's see one more time. It hasn't been given an IP address. But anyway, since let me be sure connected. Oh, okay, no wonder. So I just realized that I did not connect the cable from my firewall LAN interface to my PC. That's why there's no IP address. So these are some basic troubleshooting techniques that everybody should be familiar with. And so I'm gonna look for my cable. Okay. So here is my Ethernet cord. I'm gonna connect it right behind my PC so that I can have an IP address. So this is very important. Okay, perfect. So so I'm gonna do it one more time, and the IP config. Let me disable this Wi-Fi. Disconnect Wi-Fi, but that doesn't change anything anyway. So one. So status has been given an IP address. So disable, enable. How much longer is this gonna take? Let's see. 1 second. So 192.168.100.99. Okay, because I don't have an addressing, so that's why. So okay, since I know the IP addressing structure, let me go in and then assign my local IP address myself. 192.168.100.97. Yep, and then okay, okay, close. So so now I can go back to the web and type in the address 99, and then there you go. So I am now connected to the Wi-Fi graphical user interface. I mean, sorry, the firewall graphical user interface. So now that I have, go to advanced and then click on proceed. So here is the firewall interface. So those of you who are not familiar with the console, so just understand that in order for you to, just in case maybe your firewall comes with a different IP address, how would you know? So that's why it's important to know at least some basic configuration um, commands that you can use that will allow you to be able to understand the IP address structure. Imagine I did not know the IP address structure or the little commands I didn't know. What would I have done to be able to? So I would have been still been here waiting for DHCP to assign me an address. So, but knowing those different, what's the name, those different commands that allows me like show interface, system interface, and press a question mark. It listed all the interfaces for me and listed the LAN in addition. So that gave me an idea that the LAN IP address is a 100.99 structure. So I gave my PC a 97, and then it created a peer-to-peer network between the two devices, between the firewall and then between my PC. So now I can now access the firewall on the browser instead of using the CLI. Okay. So here I'm going to type admin. Remember, no password, and then it's going to prompt you the first time you sign in to change the password. In this case, I'm going to just, or I can do it later. I'm going to change it. My new password now is going to be admin, and then okay. So what's the username? Admin, password, admin, and then boom. So this is the firewall interface. There's a lot to talk about on this interface. But for the meantime, I'm just going to limit it to the main dashboard. The main dashboard on the top left over here, it gives you information about the firewall, the host name, the serial number, firmware build, all that information. That's not okay. The other side is the licensing aspect. This is the part that allows you to see what benefits you are entitled to with the kind of license that you have. If you have Fortinet support, firmware, general update, antivirus, all these things, it come with the licensing. So it's important to know that. And then you have the Forti Cloud. This allows you to activate. So remember, this product it came from a location that was closed. So this device is already tied to an account. So as a result, I'm not able to use it or activate it on my cloud, my cloud account and stuff like that. Um, so basically, these are the few things that I'm going to talk about here. But please pay attention. The most important thing we're going to talk about on this page is the network aspect. Because remember, the goal is to be able to connect it to the internet, basic internet. So let's check and see. So under the interfaces, under the network, there is so-called interfaces. This gives you an idea. It's the same thing as listing on the CLI. So you can see that we have what? Um, the LAN, which is called the internal trusted. If you want to, you can always edit it. So I can click on that and I can click on edit over here. That give me the chance to edit it to whatever name I want. And you can see that these are all the members of what? This particular LAN, the group. So you can see the IP address. If I want this IP address structure, because I think it is appropriate for you to change what kind of IP addressing scheme you need because everybody knows that a new router with 100 with the Fortinet 100D it comes with the 192.168.100. So anybody can in your network can guess what your default gateway is. So you wouldn't want that. So it's important that as a good some kind of basic security measure, just tweak that a little bit, change it to something else. So what I can do is maybe change it to a 10, and when you change the scroll down, you're going to see that this is going to issue a DHCP addresses. Please edit that information. No wonder why we didn't get a DHCP when we requested. Can you imagine? The DHCP ranges was different from what the max, I mean the network address was. So this is what happened. So 192.168.10 dot. We want to start from 10 also. Start giving the IP addresses from 10 and end at 192.168.10.264, the last address in the range. Okay, where is this coming from? So we do have something like 192.168.10.10 saying within the gateway subnet. Oh, yes. So the gateway subnet, let's can name it anyway. So we can give it one. So here, edit 192.168.10.10. Let's say make it start. Let's delete this. Then create a new package. Okay. Yeah, 10.2, that's the default, and the net mask is correct. Okay, and the default gateway is not this. Let me take this out and make same as the default gateway over there. So DNS, if we want to, issue our own DNS. We can say same as interface IP, or if we could specify if there's a different DNS server. It's also important. So the IP address must be within the gateway subnet unless I have a different IP address. Okay, let's say default gateway. It's 10.192.1. What am I missing here? So 192.168.10.1. So that's the default as a mask. Okay. So 192.168. So everything looks good to the CY. So okay, everything looks good. So remember, it's not gonna take effect unless we come back and change the IP address, because you will see if anything works or not. So we're gonna change this back to 10.1, and then remember your network, it will change as well. Remember, we have to go back in here and then change that information as well. So I'm going to go in here and change the IP address because I manually put it. So I can see this like 10 something, and then maybe 10, oops, 92 possibly. It will be fine. And then okay, 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 and then exit, and then refresh the page. And there you go. So our new network have changed. So this is important to remember because this is kind of like a basic security that everybody should be aware of. Okay, this is general knowledge that the default IP address for a Fortinet is 192.168.100.99. So it's good to tweak it a little bit so that if anybody just they can just be guessing stuff, and just be getting it. So at least let them do some work a little bit. Yep, then we proceed, and then again we log in admin. So you can see that we do have everything that, remember, our focus is on the network today. This is our goal for this particular class, is to help anybody who has purchased a Fortinet Fortigate router to be able to at least basically configure, your router to be able, to assign the CP to your local client and be able to access the internet. That's our goal for today. Some other classes or lessons in the future, we might look into other things, relating to maybe access control and other key things, and all these other things. All these are topics we can talk about and practice. So, um, now we're going back to interface again, and now we're going to the when. Okay, perfect. So now we're going to the 1.1, or we could be 1.2, any of them, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to click on 1.1 and click on edit. So one of the things I am going to do is make sure that my WAN is a DHCP address. It's a lot easier for you. But if you do have a static IP address from your service provider, so remember, the code that you're going to be plugging over on the one interface is the one from your service provider. You can use that. Let's say you bought this for your house, if it's from there. For the workplace, also remember this is going to be from your service provider. The cable coming from the service provider is going to the one interface. So if you have a static IP address, you can assign on this interface as a manual what that information is going to be. It's a DHCP, assign as a DHCP, and then click OK, and boom, you're done. Easy as that. So let's do that. So I'm gonna just first of all just make a DHCP. So I want my router in my Comcast router or my AT&T router or whatever it is to give me a DHCP address. So I'm just gonna click OK and just make sure that I have my cord connected. So I'm gonna show you where my cord is coming from. So this is my cord coming from my Comcast modem. So I'm gonna connect it onto my Fortinet one interface. One here. Connect that over, and then I'm gonna put my camera back. Okay, perfect. So, okay, so now that I have that connected, I'm gonna just click on that. Push the page. Okay, so you can see green, that means the port is up over here. Green, that means that the one is up. And my computer right now is transmitted at 1000 megabits per second full duplex. This is amazing. So what I'm going to do right now is make sure that I right click on here, go back to my network settings on my local PC, and make sure that I turn on my thing to accept IP addresses from the GCP route, I mean from the firewall. So, or basically I could have just added only a domain, I mean a default gateway address, which would have been 192.168.10.1 over here, and just added DNS as well, the same address default gateway, and add one DNS address from my service provider. That would have been perfect as well, but I just wanted to accept it, obtain it from what automatically. That would be a lot easier. So as you can see, I'm just waiting, and then soon we're gonna have internet. So I'm watching over here saying that no internet access. Let's see how much longer this is gonna take for us to have our internet, no internet access. So no access status. And then we have internet. If we look over here, we have internet access. So now let's browse the internet and see. Let's browse the internet and see. So I'm gonna go over into the internet to see. Let's go to YouTube. Let's test YouTube. Let's test YouTube to see if the internet is working. So go to YouTube. Hmm, interesting. So Google. Okay. It said I have internet, but it's not working. So let's see. IP config. Okay. Perfect. Okay. The only reason why this will not be working is a DNS issue. So let's go back into our router. I like this because it helps people to think. Just in case, like if you're like, oh, I got everything configured correctly and it's not working. So 192.168 10.1. So let's go into the router and see what is going on. Firmware, so admin, admin, boom, boom. So while we do that, we can test to be sure again this is not okay. So it's not working yet. So let's see, like this interface. Okay. All right. So we got this. So let's go click on this interface and edit it. Edit. So we can see what do we have here. This is perfect. GCP address is correct, and so also here we have an address from our LAN, and we have a default gateway at the 10.1. Okay, that's from the Comcast as well. Okay, this is perfect from the one side. So one other thing that we've seen here is we don't have HTTP and HTTPS assigned. So let's enable those two things as well. So from the one side. So okay, and then I'm going to check the LAN. What's new on the LAN? So click on the LAN and edit. And let's see first. Okay, on the LAN we have okay 192.168.10.1. Okay, and then DNS services, not DNS service. Okay, okay, okay. So see what happens. So I'm gonna go also enable and re-enable. Just waiting for the port to come back up. Let's see. Okay, perfect. All right. There you go. We have our internet. So basically, the only changes that we made here on the LAN, you just have to make sure that your default gateway was the same as the interface IP address. Okay, and then your DNS was the same as the system DNS. Okay, system DNS, this one, you can see this on the addressing scheme over here. Status, you can see that your DNS is from the system. So that is from Comcast, your provider, your service provider. These DNS addresses are from Comcast, your service provider. So now we can go to YouTube, and then there you go. So now we have internet. So what I can guide you to do is go to the channel, look for the channel CCIP, and then click on the like and subscribe to it as well. Subscribe to the channel so that you can get more videos on how to configure your Fortigate, Fortinet, I mean, Fortinet Fortigate router. So in the future, we're going to be looking at more in-depth configurations into most of these other aspects. So on the interface, you can see there is a DNS, there's a packet capture, SD-WAN, performance SLA, SD-WAN rules, all kinds of static route, policy routes, all kinds of things that we can learn about it and about the system. You can see there's administrators, you have what? Admin profiles, firmware, you know, this is where you can do your firmware upgrade. You just have to browse to the computer to grab the latest firmware file, and then from there you can just proceed to the rest of the steps. So as you can see, it's pretty simple, and I'm glad if this video was very helpful for you. Remember to hit the like and then subscribe button. Thank you so much for being part of this for being part of the I mean my channel, watching my videos and pushing me. I think this is something that is really great. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.